Hi everyone, this is Lori from Kid Made Modern. We're here with Tessa from Studio Jane. If you've crafted with us before, we're so excited to be back with you all at Michael's to do a fun summer craft that Tessa will get into. Again, I'll be in the Q&A. If you have any questions, make sure to put them in the Q&As and I'll be moderating the session. All right, Tessa, go right ahead.
All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Welcome to camp. I'm excited to be here and craft with you guys. Today, we are going to be making some fun little mini tents that are going to be pretty easy. We don't have a lot of supplies we're using today. So I'm going to go through our whole supply list, and then we'll be able to start crafting. So to make our little tents today, we're going to be using wooden craft sticks. So I'm using these, they're also known as popsicle sticks. These are all ones that are already pre-dyed or painted that are in the Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library. They come in all sorts of colors, but you can also use just regular popsicle sticks if they're just plain wood, or you can always paint them as well. So you can grab a little bit of paint if you want to, or you can doodle on them and make your own little designs, or you can just leave them as plain wood. If you don't have wooden craft sticks today, you can also use strips of cardboard. So you can maybe see if you have an extra box, you can cut down to make little pieces. We're going to be using them to make the little fronts as well as some structure inside of our tents. So you can definitely use cardboard or even a paper plate or paper straws would also work. So something like that. You just want something that's going to be a little bit sturdy so that your little tent will stand up. In addition to those, we're going to be using felt. So I have a whole collection of fun, bright colors of felt strips. Again, these little strips are also in the Kid Made Modern library. So they're cut down to about 2-inch by 6-inch strips. You can use larger pieces of felt if you have other felt you already have. We're going to be using 4 pieces of felt for each tent. We're going to glue them together to make larger panels. So we're going to go through all those steps, but just so you guys know. Again, you can also use paper or other fabric, cardboard, and you could paint or draw on as well. And then in addition, we're going to be using hot glue gun today. So I have a little hot glue gun with some extra hot glue sticks. You can use a white glue. So if you are using either just a standard white glue, we have our Kid Made white glue as well. It is going to take a little longer to dry if you're using white glue, and because of the shape of the tents, you're going to have to hold it in place. So just keep that in mind, but if you're crafting with an adult today, then they can hopefully help you, and we can use the hot glue gun. And then lastly, any other decorative elements you want to add. So I've got some little bowls here full of pom-poms and sequins, wooden beads. You can also add in bits of fuzzy sticks, these little pipe cleaners. So you can do all sorts of stuff. I have other little bits of felt cut out on this one, little rhinestones. This one has little fuzzy stick and then little felt strips. So you can really add any extra additional pieces that you want. So if you have other pieces in your art supplies you want to use, feel free to add anything you want, but we'll be using a little selection of different things to add to our tents today. And again, all of these little pieces are from the Kid Made Modern Arts and Crafts library. So all the sequins, the pom-poms, it's all in there. I think that's everything. Oh, and you're gonna need a pair of scissors. So grab a pair of scissors if you don't have any yet, and then we're gonna get started. So I'm gonna flip my camera around here for you guys and we'll go ahead and start our tents. All right, I'll get this kind of focus. Okay, so we are going to start with our little tents here. And to do that, we are going to be using 4 strips of felt per tent. So I'm going to make a purple tent with you guys today. So I have 2 dark purple and 2 light purple strips I'm going to use. And we are going to first glue these together, and then we're going to add in some of our little wooden craft sticks as a little reinforcements on the inside. So to do that, I'm going to take my strips and I'm going to take my hot glue gun and put a little strip of glue right along the top. And again, these little strips are pre-cut, so they're 2 inches by 6 inches. So all in all, my tent is 4 inches now, or about, now that I glued these together. So you can see, just kind of overlap them a little bit and glued them together. Again, you can cut larger piece of fabric or felt down to about 4 inches if you just want to do a full single piece, or you can do 2-inch strips of paper or fabric and glue them together the same way.
Hey, Tessa, Cecilia's asking, what are the measurements of the strips? Now, these are the strips from our arts and crafts supply library from Kid Made Modern. Those are about what measurement?
Yeah, these ones they're about 2 inches by 6 inches long. And we are going to cut these down a little bit so that they're the same size as our little wooden craft sticks. So you can make them, if you're cutting your fabric yourself or your felt, you can make them a little bit smaller. You're probably going to want to make them about 4-inch total. The tent's going to be 4 inches tall and about 5 inches long. All right, so we're going to do the same thing with the other side. So take your other 2 strips, and again, I'm going to overlap them. So I'm just taking my hot glue gun and just doing a little strip of glue along the top. You can also use glue dots if you don't have a hot glue gun today, or you aren't crafting with an adult. So glue dots will definitely work as well. Or again, you can use a white glue. It just will take a little while to dry. All right, so now we've got both of our little strips here all cut, or all glued together. And then from there, we're going to take our wooden craft sticks and we're going to glue one at the top. So I'm just going to take one of these first, and I'm going to take my little strip, or my little wooden craft stick here, and I'm going to put another strip of glue, hot glue, along the top, and then put my wooden craft stick right on top. So I'm kind of lining this up toward right at the top and toward one corner, and then we're going to trim our felt down. So this is the top of my piece. My wooden craft stick goes just to the corner here and along the top edge. And now we're going to do the same on the bottom. And this is just going to help give these ones you're not actually going to see. These will be on the inside of our tent, but it's going to help create a little extra strength so they stand up really nicely. So I just did the same thing and just glued another little craft stick right at the bottom. All right, so we're going to do the same thing on our second tent, or our second side. So in total, we're going to be using 8 wooden craft sticks today. We're going to have 4 that are hidden on the inside, and then 4 on the outside that will be the front or the entrance points of our tent. And again, just gluing this right down. And you can use any color you want for your little wooden sticks. I like this little yellow with the purple, but I might put some blue ones on the outside. We'll see. But you can use any colors that you want for your felt or your craft sticks. Again, you can also use just little pieces of cardboard or paper straws or something like that instead, if you don't have wooden craft sticks.
Emily, Emily just mentioned if you asked if we could slow down. Emily, just so you know, this will be recorded, so you will be able to watch it if you're not able to keep up today, but we will slow down just a little bit so you can keep up with our craft.
Absolutely, yes. Thanks for the note, Emily. All right. So once you have your felt pieces glued together, and go ahead and glue down your little wooden craft sticks. Oh, it looks like I need a little extra glue here. And again, I'm just putting a little strip of glue at the top and bottom, and then gluing my wooden craft sticks to one side. And then we're going to trim this off on the other end. So I'm just going to take my scissors starting on one end and just line my scissors up next to my wooden craft stick. And then I'm just going to cut straight down. This extra little felt, you can keep this if you want to cut little decorations out of it, but that's going to be a little scrap piece. And then do the same thing here. So I'm just, again, lining my scissors up next to my wooden craft stick. And then I'm going to cut straight down And I should line up right next to my other craft stick. So now you've got your 2 pieces of felt, or you might have just 1 piece of felt if you're using a bigger piece, and then our wooden craft sticks on the top and bottom. All right. So now that we've got our 2 little squares here, they're either side of our tents. Next, we're going to start by gluing them together. So I'm going to put glue on one of my wooden craft sticks. And then I'm going to take my other tent and lay it on top. So again, I'm only putting glue on one of these craft sticks. We're gluing the top together, but we're going to leave the bottom open so that our tent can open.
Hey,
So
Tessa,
now that
this is asking, what if we don't have felt? Is there any other materials that you think they could use?
Yeah, absolutely. If you don't have felt, you could definitely do this with paper. So construction paper, newspaper, anything like that will work. Even you could use cardboard as well. It's going to have a different look, but that will be super cute and you could decorate that. Paper plates even would work, a paper bag. So pretty much any other material that is going to be able to be cut down. Because we're using felt, ours have a little bend to them, as you can see, just because it's fabric. So you could use other fabric if you have scrap fabric or anything like that. But paper will definitely work.
Yeah, and Madison and Kim are using foam. That's a great material to use as well.
Oh yeah, that's perfect. Yeah, little foam, like the flexible foam, or you could use foam board, poster board. That would definitely work. All right, so I just put a strip of glue in between my wooden craft sticks. So at the top are glued together and the bottom is open. So that's how your little tent should look at the moment. And then we're going to set this aside and we're going to make our little X's. So we've got our little X's here that are going to be the front and back of our tent. And to do that, we are going to put them together and just slightly overlap them at the top. So we're basically making kind of a funny looking X. Instead of crossing them in the middle to make an X, we're just going to pull them apart a little bit more and move the cross section toward the top rather than in the middle of an X. And then I'm just going to take some glue, just folding one of them over, putting a little dot of glue there, and then go ahead and glue these together. So this is how your little tent should look. So the little front, so like little tent poles toward the front, and we're going to make 2 of these. So just do the same steps. So again, I'm going to take 2 of my little wooden craft sticks, overlap them slightly at the top. I'm just going to pull one over so I keep them in place, and then put a little drop of glue and then reposition them together. So they should be right about the same size. You can always make them on top of each other to make sure. If yours are a little bit off, that's fine, especially if you are using felt, because the felt is flexible. You can kind of position it where you need it to be.
Hey, Pedro mentioned we're going a little bit fast and a little bit behind. Just a reminder, everyone, that we are recording the session. So if you're a little behind, feel free to watch the session tomorrow, but we will slow down just a little bit so that everyone can get caught up as well.
Absolutely. And I can go through a couple of those first steps if you guys want to see those again. So I'll set these aside real quick. Make sure you guys can all catch up. And I'll make another tent side. So if you are still making your tent, if you're cutting your felt or your fabric, anything like that, basically what you're going to do is taking our felt strips, I'm going to glue 2 of them together. Creating 1 square of fabric or felt. Again, you can use paper also. And then we're going to take 2 wooden craft sticks and glue them at the top and bottom. So again, this is the same steps if you guys are all caught up, but for those that are still catching up, we're just making another tent side to make sure you guys can follow along. And I'm going to put a little strip of glue at the top. And you're going to take your wooden craft stick and glue it toward the top of your tent and in one corner. And then do the exact same thing on the bottom. So as you're making your tent, it should look something like this to start with. So you've got your whole square of fabric, 2 pieces glued together. And then I have 2 wooden craft sticks that are both lined up on one side at the top and at the bottom. So once you have both of those, you're going to do this twice. So do 2 of them, 1 for each side of your tent. And then we're going to go ahead and cut this down. And so then your little tent side should look like this. And we can do it. And so then once you have 2 of them together, we're going to glue them together. And they should look like this. So we're just going to glue them at the top and leave the bottom open. So that's why you know that you have wooden craft sticks at the top and bottom on both sides. We've glued them together at the top, but left them open. So you should be able to open it like a book right now. And then go ahead and make your little X's. This is going to be the front and back of our tent. So you could, in theory, climb in it if you were small enough to, or maybe you have little dolls or little bugs or little friends that are going to live in this little tent. So you can do that. Okay, so once you've glued your little X's together here, we're then going to attach these onto the tent itself. And to do that, I think the easiest thing to do is to leave your little popsicle stick X on the table. So leave this flat, and then we're going to add glue onto both sides. And I'm just putting a strip of hot glue on both sides below where they cross. So at the top, I didn't put any glue, just below it. And then I'm going to take my little tent here, move this so you guys can see it, right? And I'm going to open it up and press it into the glue. And this is where the bottom popsicle sticks or cardboard or whatever you are using come in handy, so that that really is easy to grab onto. So I'm holding on to my wooden craft sticks and not where the glue is. And I can easily press it into the glue because it's nice and sturdy. And then that is how it looks on the front. So we're going to do this again on the other side. So again, if you aren't there yet, don't worry, we'll do it again. So again, we have our little X here. And I'm putting glue down both ends. I'm going to flip this over and then holding it from the middle where my wooden craft sticks are, and I can just press it right into the glue. And so this is always a good way that how you construct something, how you put something together can also be how to craft safely, instead of just pushing the felt directly into the glue where it might be a little flimsy and easier to burn yourself. Giving yourself a little bit of structure here is easier to grab onto, and then it keeps your fingers out of hot glue as well as helps hold up your little tent. And there you go, all together our pieces create a little tent. We're going to decorate this, of course, but I'm going to go through those steps again with the other little one we started making so you guys can see how to do the full assembly and make sure that everyone can catch up. So again, we've got one little side here. We can make a second side, maybe a pink side. We're going to glue this together. And again, I'm just making a second tent here, so you don't need to feel rushed at all. We're just going to make 2 so you guys can follow along all the steps and make sure that we're making them together. And I'm just creating my second side here of this tent. So I'm putting a wooden craft stick at the top and bottom of my little fabric square that I made. And then we're going to cut this down. Okay, so this tent, I'm going to have one pink side and one blue side. So again, we have both of these now ready to go. We're now going to make our little X's again. So if you're just at this step, perfect, follow right along. Let's see, let's make maybe some green ones this go around. So we're going to take our little wooden craft sticks and overlap them just at the top. So you have a little V here and a big V at the bottom. It looks just like a little funky X. So, and then just fold it over a little bit, put a little drop of glue, and then drop that craft stick down again. And then we'll do that one more time. So again, overlap them. And you want these to be about the same. So it's great to just kind of put them next to each other as you're making them to make sure that they're about the same width. That'll give you the most even looking tent. And then just glue those together. So now we've got two X's and we've got two sides of our tent. So we're going to glue these together. And to do that, to glue both sides of our tent together, putting a strip of glue onto one craft stick and then laying my other one on top of it. And again, we're only gluing the top together. The bottom, we are leaving open so that we can create the opening for our tent. All right, so now it's time to assemble. Again, you've already glued your little X together. And then you can take a little bit of glue and I'm just putting a stripe of glue on both sides of my little X. And again, it's easiest to leave this portion, the X, down on your tabletop or on your surface, and then take your little tent, holding it from the middle and just spreading it a little bit, and you can push all of your wooden craft sticks down into your glue. Once you have one side glued on, and we'll do the same thing on the other side. So again, take your hot glue gun or your glue dots and put glue down the X. And then flip your tent over, again, holding it from the middle and not near the edge where the glue is, and just set it right on top of the X and press it down into the glue. Looks like a little bit of my glue dried here. And if the entire felt doesn't line up or doesn't go into the glue, that's okay. You can have a little bit of a gap as long as your wooden craft sticks are in the glue, it's going to hold together. So you can see here, there's a little bit of a gap in this. I can push this fabric out, but because the top and bottom have wooden craft sticks, those are being held together and it still is going to be sturdy. And so then you have a front and a back and two different sides. Got your whole little tent all put together. And then you have the fun part of getting to decorate it any way you want. So to decorate them, you can add as many different elements as you want to today. You can always even add an extra little top here if you want to finish that off. So I'm going to do that. I'm just going to put a little bit of glue right down the middle. And this just kind of hides the seam at the top. So I'm taking an additional craft stick. You can also use a fuzzy stick or a piece of cardboard and just glue that right on top. And then you can get as wild as you want. So if you want your tent to be crazy and full of color and a whole rainbow, you can add tons of different little beads or sequins. You can add pom-poms or fuzzy sticks. So you can do all sorts of things. You can easily put it on its side if you want to as you're decorating it. And so I'm going to continue with our hot glue gun and adding a few sequins to start. So what I'm going to do is just put a little drop of glue right onto the felt and then holding the edge of my sequin and just laying it right on top. And so when you're doing that, it's really easy to just drop it into the glue and it will grab onto it. So you don't have to push really hard with hot glue. It will just kind of fall right into it. And then you don't have to worry about any of that hot glue getting on you. And you can do as many different decorations as I said. So if you want to make a ton of different decorations, you can cut things out of felt as well. That's always a cute idea. You can also just draw directly on it with markers, or you can paint on top of it. So if you don't have sequins today, that's fine. Yours will look different than mine, but I think that is great. I love all the things you guys make, which is why it's always fun when you guys have an adult share it with us on social media. I love seeing all the things that you create. And so I'm just adding these kind of in a sporadic fashion. So you don't have to have a pattern if you don't want to, just creating a fun little flower power tent here. And then if you want, you can add additional things in those too. So maybe you can add a couple little beads in the center of our sequins. So to do that, I'm just gonna now layer on top. So put a little dot of glue in the center of my sequin. And I'm gonna take one of these little wooden beads and put it right in the middle. So now I've got a fun little center to my flower and do it in a different contrasting color. And do the same thing on this one. Bright pink bead in the center. And then with hot glue, there's always glue strings. So don't ever let that be a deterrent or bother you. When everything's dry, they're really easy just to pull away and it cleans up really easily. All right, so we'll flip this over to the other side of our tent and do the same thing. And I'm just adding one small dot of glue and then just laying a little sequin right on top. And you can do the same thing whether you're using sequins or pom-poms, or you're cutting out flowers out of paper, or maybe you went out and you found some real flowers or leaves. That would be cool as well. Any of those, you do the same method. So just a little drop of glue or a single glue dot if you're using glue dots, and then you can just push it right in. And again, I'm just barely laying them on top. And I'm going to decorate the other one that we're making with some different elements. So we'll cut some different little things out of felt as well. And I'm always a fan of pom-poms, or googly eyes are fun. Those are always cute to put on these two. And a good option maybe your little tent with eyes would scare away all the forest monsters and bears and keep them away. Or maybe you just want a little flower power tent like I'm making, is always adorable.
Hey Tessa, Jen has a question. She said, do we have to or need to add an extra stick on top of the tent for the roof?
No, you don't have to. As you can see with this one, the other one that we've been making, it's going to stay together just fine. You can just see the little seam there, which is great as well, since you have your little craft sticks inside. So you don't need to add an additional one on top. It just is an extra little element if you wanted to add more color or anything like that. But it's it really doesn't do anything to keep it, it's not structural, so you don't necessarily need it. It's not going to help keep your tent together. It's just decorative. All right. So now to finish this side off, I'm going to add a couple of beads in the middle of my larger flower sequins. And you can also add little pom-poms in the center. If you have little mini pom-poms, that's always cute if you're using flowers. All right, so now that this side is all glued together and decorated, you can always add additional little bits toward the front too. So maybe you want to put a couple little beads at the front. So I'm going to put a couple little dots of glue. And again, this is all just extra decoration. So this is always the part that I think is fun to make it your own. But ultimately, once you glue your felt and all your little wooden craft sticks together, your tent is technically finished. So this is a complete tent. So if you like it simple and you don't want to add decorations, you definitely don't have to. You can make as many little tents like this as you want. But if you want to add decorations, then from here, you can just make as many as you want. And I'm always a fan of extra decorations. Give me all the beads and all the googly eyes. I'm just flipping this over and adding the same little beaded decoration on my wooden craft sticks on this other side. And again, all these little elements you could definitely do with glue dots or with even just white craft glue. The hardest part with craft glue is going to be gluing the actual tent together and keeping it open like this as it dries. But once you get that going, then you can easily use white glue for all these other details as well. All right. And so there you have it, a whole little tent. With this little piece on top, you could also add little extra details on here if you wanted to. You'll add more little beads at the top for a little roof accent. And I obviously am using a mostly pink color scheme to decorate this, but my little tent here has yellow craft sticks and purple walls and pink and blue flowers. So you can definitely make it whatever colors you want to. I've never met a color I don't like, so I think that all of them will be adorable, whatever colors you guys use. And then I just did a little beaded top on my roof there for some added details. You could easily bead the whole thing or do pom-poms instead. And so it's all put together. So for our second tent here, we can do some different techniques to decorate it. Maybe you don't have sequins and beads and you want to use more of the same materials that we already have been using, so whether that's paper or felt. So you could easily grab some extra felt pieces here and you can make some fun little designs. So I'm just going to cut a couple little strips here.
So somebody asked, their white glue won't stick. Now, glue sometimes takes a little bit with felt, correct?
It does, yeah. So that's always, with felt, I tend to use hot glue because of that reason. It will stick, but it will take a long time. So you usually have to hold it in place. You could just hold it in place if you want to, or yeah, just using hot glue or glue dots is going to be the best option. But you can kind of create this top seam, and then I would really hold these all together for a couple minutes probably, which feels like a really long time, I know. But yeah, I would hold those all together for a long time. And then once you get that to be sturdy, maybe even let that rest before you move on to adding on your little X's. If you are using white glue and you're trying to get it all to stick, you can always decorate these first, and then afterward you can glue it all together. So that way it can kind of sit and dry after you've decorated. All right, so I have some little pieces of felt here that I just cut from, again, more little strips. I'm just using this little lime green. I'm going to cut them down, a couple down a little bit more. And then I'm just going to glue these directly onto the felt side. So I'm just going to put a little stripe of glue going up the side, and then I'll lay this felt right on top. And I'm just making up patterns and decorations as I go. So you can make any style that you want. And this is just some little vertical stripes going up the side of my tent here. You can see the side of my tent. We've got little stripes going up the side. And then I think I'll cut some more stripes to do the same on the other side. Just cutting this down. And yeah, as we were talking about the glue, again, if you want to decorate your sides first, you can definitely do that. So while they're flat, just go ahead and do all these decorations, and then afterward, glue it together. Or if you are just still working on assembly and you're not at decorating yet, that's fine. If you want to decorate with us and instead or first, you can always do that and then assemble it afterward. And so I just flip my tent over to the other side, and I'm just doing the same little pattern over here. And some of these have even more decorations going than what we did in our little original sample. So like this one here is really simple. It just has it has a fuzzy stick here in the middle and then little stripes of felt at the bottom, and that's it. So you can make it really, really simplistic as well if you want to. All right, so now I did little stripes on this one. Again, I didn't put an extra wooden craft stick at the top because it doesn't need it. It's just as decorative. If you want to, you can. And then maybe we should add some little fuzzy sticks. So again, if you are just using felt or paper, you can make all your decorations out of those same materials that we use to construct the tent. So you don't need to add a ton of extra things to make it really fun and vibrant and decorative, but you can add as many extra elements as you want to as well. I'm just going to add a couple little pom-poms here. And I'm just using these little sparkly mini poms. And I'll do the same on the other side. And you can cut other shapes as well out of felt. I just did little stripes here, but you could always draw using a marker onto your felt if you wanted to, and then cut them out, or you can just freehand cut some shapes too. So you can always take your scissors and just round out little shapes if you want to. Maybe cut a little heart. Or you can cut little flowers or stars. So you could do anything like that as well. And I think we'll glue this little heart right on the front of our tent. And you can add as many extra little elements that you want to, but there you have both of your little tents, or as many tents as you want. Maybe you want to make one for everyone in the family or for gifts, or if you are going to summer camp or went. These are fun little reminders you can make with your friends. And then maybe you have a little hamster that can live in this, or your dolls, or they're just fun to sit on your nightstand or in your room as well. And so there you have it. Your little tents are all complete. If you're still decorating, keep going, make as many fun little details as you want, and always make sure to share them with us afterwards so we can see all your fun creations.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for crafting with us today, you guys. Again, make sure to share with us on social media at Kid Made Modern and Michael's. And we'll be back in August with more crafting. So I'm excited to see you guys then as well. So thanks so much, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks, Tessa.